asleep since we are right after lunch and everyone's
Hello.
going to be full and cozy. Thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to moderate this panel with these co-panelists. This is an investor summit, so hearing from the investors what they're looking for, especially for the companies that are looking for investment or will be looking for investment soon, it's relevant and exciting. So we're going to start with some presentations. I'm going to introduce myself quickly, and then we'll give the opportunity to my co-panelists to introduce themselves as well. My name is Carla. I'm an attorney at Zuber Lawler. I'm not going to say too much about Zuber Lawler because Tom went right before me, so I know he already gave a good run-through of our law firm, but we are a boutique full-service law firm. We are headquartered here in Los Angeles and have offices in other parts of the country. And we are very excited about emerging industries and technologies, in particular longevity. Tom and I are very into longevity from a personal level and from a professional level as well. And I'm in the transactional department of the firm, so I do everything from M&A to private finance, regulatory work, general corporate work. And I do it across a number of industries, one of which is longevity. And as I said, I am very into longevity at a personal level, so when I get to work with companies in the industry, it makes me very excited and I have a lot of fun. And I started my life in Spain. I was born there. I'm licensed to practice there, so a lot of the work that I do has a cross-border component. I represent both companies, European, Latin American companies coming to the US market, and US companies that are looking towards the Latin American and European markets. Lisa, would you like to continue?
Sure. Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody had a great lunch and are feeling rejuvenated and ready to talk about investing in longevity. My name is Lisa Lambie. I'm the managing partner of Maroon Venture Fund. I'm also one of the founding directors for Maroon Research Institute. It's an institute focused on health span, lifespan, longevity, precision medicine, proactive, preventative healthcare for chronic health conditions. The institute is global, and the institute is focused on not only R&D, but also commercialization and funding of investments globally. My family background has actually been in precision medicine, and a lot of what we've been talking about, biomarkers, genomics, for the past 70 years. I am not 70 myself. And I'm also one of the founders, and we really wanted to found this institute and also make sure that we're funding innovation in areas where, for chronic health conditions that we have found have been lacking. Specifically, the areas of focus for us are neurological and brain health, cardiovascular, blood health, respiratory and environmental allergies, inflammation, and autoimmune disorders. And then finally, we also have a real focus around climate impact on health, which, as we know, is, well, some may say that it has an even a bigger determinant of aging than even genetics. And with that, I'll pass the
Hi, everyone. So it's been a wonderful conference so far. I'm enjoying meeting all of you. So my name is Manish Chamoli. I'm a scientist by training, obtained my PhD in aging biology, and have been researching in the field of aging for almost 15 years now, over a decade at Buck Institute for Research on Aging. So before starting with LongGame Venture Capital, I co-founded a drug discovery startup targeting mitochondrial dysfunction, which gives me a good learning experience in venture building, company formation, and kind of understanding what does it take to bring early stage therapies from academia to translation and early discoveries. So now at LongGame Venture Capital, I lead the scientific strategies and due diligence over there. I'm a chief scientific officer partner. And LongGame Venture Capital, it's a new fund. We are Fund 1, just started 10 months back, based in London. My colleagues are based in London. One of the colleagues is based in Europe, and I'm based here in the Bay Area. So we are funding early stage, pre-seed to seed stage companies, which, with a clear mandate, anything which targets the core biology of aging. That's what we are playing, enabling technologies, new modalities, which unlocks the potential of targeting aging. And with the check sizes of 250K to 1.5 million with an average of 750K, we have already invested in 14 plus companies and actively deploying capital. So, thank you.
Hi. So my name is Anthony Young, and thank you for inviting me, Brenda. And so I hope everybody got the great lunch. So I'm probably the more non-scientific person here in the panel, but I am an angel investor. I'm also a venture capitalist, but I'm also in private equity. So I do all three. I focus a lot on the angel side. I currently have 27 companies in my portfolio. I have 8 unicorns on my portfolio. Biotech is one of my verticals. I really like biotech, not just from the financial standpoint, but what it can also do to help, right? Because I like the therapeutic side. Like, okay, what's out there? What are the new technologies out there? And the beauty of that is, when you support this, biotech company, well, you can actually change the world, right? Because, the current thing we have in our, in medicine, it's not enough, right? And so going into, exploring these new technologies that's out there, you can actually help a lot of people. In fact, one of the companies I invested in, when they were going in a clinical trial, I actually sent a friend of mine, and now he's fine, right? And so to me, it's that part where you can help, right? When you can help, people that are either close to you or your friends, whatever. And so investing in this new technology to me is a passion, right? It's something that I really like to do and support, right? So that's kind of the short spiel of it.
Thank you all. Let's start with giving the audience an idea on what type of companies are you looking for or you get excited about investing in. Are there any particular characteristics that you look for in terms of stage, in terms of technology that they are developing? Lisa, would you like to start?
Sure. So for Maroon Venture Fund, which is a $75 million fund, we are investing seed to Series A plus, in particular companies that are focused on early detection, early protocols, personalized, proactive precision medicine, and specifically companies that are prevention over cure. Listen, there's a lot of noise right now around lifestyle. Okay, I think in the past year, it's become a hashtag for every other company out there. So we need to, and you need to, as investors, we need to sift out and identify the companies that are really innovating. Lifestyle is great, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, how many healthy, outwardly healthy people have you known that have dropped down from a heart attack, right? So it's not just about a lifestyle and the outward, manifestation of health, but also some of what has been talked about today, but the actual scientific drivers, the genomics, the biomarkers, the interactions, the climate impact on health. So that is very much the areas that we're focusing on. If you were to ask, if we could just pick one area, I would say amongst the most important is neurological and brain health. Again, just being very basic here. You go to the doctor, they listen to your heart, they listen to your lungs. They may ask you to jump up and down, whatever. But when's the last time you went to the doctor and he actually did any kind of analysis around your brain? And it's one of the most sensitive. It's also one of the most underinvested. And from an economic standpoint, it's also one of the areas that have the biggest impact. It's about $1.5 trillion economic impact, specifically in the U.S. Okay, and I believe there's a statistic out there, whether you want to believe it or not, that it's estimated that at least 20% in 2023 of the US population had some form of neurological disorder or mental health issue, with only about 6% of healthcare investment going into neurological areas. So that is an area that we're focused on. And I would also say beyond, and I'll pass because I know that we're going to get into a lot of detail around this. We also want to make sure that these are companies that are looking at solutions not just for men, not just for women, but also children, right? In terms of the stage at which you can really make a difference. And again, I'm talking about prevention. I'm not talking about cure and big biopharma, et cetera. These are the stages that really will make a difference. So these are the areas that we are focused on.
Thank you, Lisa. Anthony, how about you?
Yeah, so on my end, I concentrate more on the therapeutics side of things because as an investor, I look at, are you actually solving a problem, right? So to me, I'm more focused on that. So I do a lot on the therapeutic side, but also when I look at startups, I'm an early stage investor up to like Series A. I look for, as an investor, right, I look for the massive returns because I'm risking my money early stage, right? And so I look for companies that have a potential of a minimum of at least 100x. And then the next thing I look at is your barrier to entry. Because a lot of startups, they say they have a barrier to entry and they think the patent and the IP is good enough. It's not. So for me, I look at how strong is your moat, right? And over the years, I realized one of the strongest moat you can have is actually time. Because that's why when you look into the biotech side, most of these big pharmas, they have all the money, the resource, they have the labs. But why do they just either buy in and sit on the cap table, right? Or because even if you have all that resource and money, it still takes that long to develop something, right? So rather than replicate that, which would take maybe 10 years, they'd rather just buy into the company. So for me, one of the advice I always give to startups is you have to look at that moat, which is time, how long. Because if I'm let's say if I'm a competitor and it would take me like 10 years to do this, I don't know, do I really want to do this? Or should I just partner up with you or I find something else? So to me, time is one of the strongest moat that I've seen. But a lot don't really see that as a moat, but I do. So to me, time is a very important part of my investing process. So, yeah.
Thank you. Manish, we talked about a little bit with Lisa and Anthony what type of companies they're looking at, what they're interested in. From the company's perspective, a lot of times they look for more than just money. They are hoping for a closer relationship with their investors. How do you support companies that you invest in beyond the funding point of view?
Yeah, for us, so at LongGames, we are a team of successful entrepreneurs who knows company building. And one of the things what our team has a deep scientific expert in aging itself, kind of like doing research, myself doing research at Buck Institute and over 15 years, have a very good understanding of what does a clear scientific or very well-cooked scientific strategy look like. So that's what we are trying to give the founders, or basically scientifically guide them in a sense when they are early stages startings. And the other thing is being in this space for quite a long, personally, I have we all have gone a very good network in terms of both in academia. I have wonderful colleagues who are in different fields, and specifically in the aging and longevity biotech space, in biotech, in academia, and in pharma. And one thing we want to make sure that we make early connections of founders and early stage founders with this strategic partners to bring more scientific advisors on board and everything. And also, all of the advice, which is generally once you are scaling up the company from 1 to 100 employees, we have a team who have built successful scaled up companies, so giving them early advice there. Other thing is like, all of our team is based in different locations geographically. I'm based here in the Bay Area. My partner Will is based in London, and we have a third partner who is based in Switzerland. So this gives us really a good kind of a network to bring in and syndicate the round, which are required at later stages, so bringing on those people. And even the last and most foremost, we know when not to give advice, because many times VCs like to give an advice which doesn't make any sense. So just knowing that when your advice makes sense to them, then only you give it. So that's what is, I think, the value add you can do. And famously what Vinod Khosla says that 80% of VCs do not add anything. So best is like, don't give an advice at some point when it is not required.
Great. Lisa, we know that the longevity space is uncertain, it's complex. So how do you assess the credibility of the underlying research, and what do you look in a founder who can turn the science, the underlying science, into commercially viable solutions?
Yes, so a number of things. One, again, make sure that the area that they are focused on is actually science-driven, and it's not the product of a fad. I can't tell you how many times when I speak to somebody, they'll say, "Well, are you SaaS? Are you hardware? Are you software?" That's not solving, that's not actually solving a problem. So is it a hobby that they're focused on, or is it actually something that is scientifically based that's going to move the needle? So number one, let's stay away from the noise. Two, is this a company, and again, we're being very specific for this space, is this a company that is integrated? Yes, even if they're based out of the US, do they have some sort of global integration, which is so important? And the reason for that is one of the concerns that I've had is people who innovate in silos. And this is where maybe there may be a slightly different perspective from, let's say, academia versus from an investment standpoint. Sometimes in academia, you're being driven by publishing, you're being driven by, being the only one, being number one, et cetera. As opposed to, which can be a danger from an investment standpoint, because you could be encouraged to, again, what I see as innovating in a silo. So we want to be able to see that this company, this venture, this initiative actually is not innovating in silos, is collaborating, and that way that they're going to get to a better solution, a more accurate solution, faster and cheaper, with better protocols, and not burning cash unnecessarily on something that actually is not new, maybe just be new in a very limited sense. So number one, not operating in a silo. Two, the company, the venture, the research, they have had access to a large data set of information. So important. You could have the best result in the world, but if the best result in the world in your estimation is based on very limited data, then it's not actually worth that much, right? So they have solved the issue about getting access to large sets of data that, by the way, is also diverse, okay? Yes, innovating in the US, but again, back to global aspects. There's some companies that are starting to innovate with UK companies, that's great. Innovating with Asian companies, that's great. I've yet to hear of a company that is doing, and I'm sure they are doing it, innovating in partnership with leading hospitals, clinics in Africa, okay? supposedly one of the largest populations on this planet by year 2050, okay? What's happening there? Middle East, I know there's some people doing work as well in the Middle East. So having access to large data sets, which by the way is not a couple hundred, okay? We're talking about having access to thousands, millions of data points. Now, okay, that may sound great in theory. Someone's gonna say, okay, Lisa, well, how do I get access to such a large data set? It's back to, and it's something that was spoke about earlier, collaboration with hospitals, with governments, with patients opting in. And again, this is something that we have looked at over decades. This is not something that we just dreamed up recently. So that would be something else that we are looking at in terms of what is the caliber and quality of data that they're actually using to come up with their solution. Another thing that we look at is, from a risk standpoint, is when a researcher or entity puts themselves out and saying they are the only one or they're the first. That, to me, is concerning, because do they know that they're the only one? Do they know that they're the first? Again, from a due diligence standpoint, what I want to hear from a potential company that we're investing is, this is what we do know. This is what we still need to do some more work on. These are some of the risks that we have identified. These are areas that we need to do, look into more. And from a global standpoint, this is still, virgin-ish territory. So yes, people want to say, I'm the one that has solved the longevity challenge or the health span challenge. I've done it. Great. Really? No. So we are cautious when we hear people saying, we are the one, we're the only one, we've solved it. Knowing full well that this is a multidimensional issue that we are all looking to solve. Next, I know there's a lot, but I'm gonna keep going because this is serious. The next thing that we look at is capital, obviously. We wanna make sure that this is a company, there's so much great ideas that have died on the vine, right? There's so many great research that has never seen the light of day because of lack of funding. So it's only gonna be worth its grain of salt if actually it's benefiting somebody and it's not just in a academic publication for Harvard or something like that. So as we know, one of the biggest challenges is obviously capital. So, a company that acknowledges that, and we are not then concerned about they're gonna spend the next 60, 70% of their time fundraising, but have somehow solved the issue around, okay, we know that we're gonna need to innovate forever, by the way. You don't just get to a solution and then all of a sudden you're there. But have sorted the issue around capital and having access. They may not have it in hand, but they have access to it. Last point is around AI. Any company, obviously, that is, or venture or initiative that's not seriously integrating AI is obviously a concern. We know that AI is going to accelerate. And by the way, the speed at which we are going to innovate, I've heard, in the next 20 years, 30 years, no, okay? The landscape's going to change in the next 3 years, okay? And so if somebody is moving that slowly, again in a silo, then are they in touch? AI is going to give us potentially better solutions, more information, but the downside of AI, which I'd love to hear also people addressing from a science standpoint, is you might have an issue of too much data, right? And you're going off in different areas. So those are some of the things that we look at when we're due diligencing a company. Listen, it's a great opportunity, $1 of prevention, and we're much more on the prevention. Let's prevent. Let's not go down the biopharma route where 60%, the U.S. is 60% of the global biopharma, but then the U.S. is at the bottom of the list in terms of life expectancy. So the biopharma isn't solving stuff, but we want to just make sure that these companies are well diligenced, well funded, and well supported.
Thank you. That was very insightful. I'm sure a lot of the companies that are going to be pitching later are going to be very interested in keeping these things in mind. And speaking of which, Manish, we're going to have some companies that are going to be pitching their solutions. What advice would you give them? What do you look for when a company is pitching their business? Do you look for anything in particular? What advice can you give them to elevate their pitch to increase their opportunities of investment?
Yeah, so we can tell, I mean, the kind of thing what we are looking on is definitely a solid scientific proof of concept. That's must. And, but more important than is like a proof of a discipline, like how exactly you are reaching out to those ideas, what your rational thinking is like when you're designing experiments around your proof of concepts. And this is important for us to understand because many times very early stage ideas, they kind of completely pivot from where they started. So we want to understand what's your thoughtful designs around it, how you're making decisions and everything, just because it's going to change many times. So that's definitely one. It's like a proof of a rigor, scientific rigor, and not just like whether the team is executing operationally at a best level, but even the scientific executions of the team are best. In the sense like, are your experiments good enough, controlled way? Their rigor, they are good on stats. That's what all we are looking at. Many of these things are very clear when you look into the data room of company beyond just the signing pitch deck slide. So that's where exclusively we are looking into. And the other thing is like if you're building something in the space of aging and longevity, we would love to see definitely having a preclinical data around systemic aging control and everything is good. But if you can show that beyond lifespan, if it can control the health span metrics, preclinical data around that, that's helpful. We want to understand the target biology you are engaging. Is it something systemic, can go beyond particular disease indication? And this is particularly for the reason that we understand the regulatory guidelines around aging are not that clear. So you have to pick an indication of choice and then go beyond that. But the idea is like how you're picking that indication, what your designs around that, how you are designing clinical trials. We want to hear that very early, a clear strategy to that thing. And which is important because, I mean, we just don't want like a disease indication where you don't have an alignment with the MOAX and where your target is engaged. So we want to see an alignment that how target is being engaged with the disease biology or not. And then much more into, this is like, are you first in class, best in class, what is there? We are building therapies and targets which are going to be setting up the standard for the next 10, 15 years. So most of the preclinical data should be benchmarked against the current standard of care or actually something which is in the clinical trial. We want to see that. We want to see that whether you have compared those benchmarked and everything. And that kind of gives an idea on that the therapies which are coming are not just marginal increase, but they are radically improving the current therapeutic regime. So that's what exactly kind of things we would be looking into and making decisions on.
Thank you. And I know we have to wrap it up, so do you have time for one last question, Brenda? Lisa was mentioning, Anthony, and this one is for you. Lisa was mentioning how longevity is an industry that evolves very rapidly. So what do you see the most promising opportunities in the industry to be in the next 5 years?
Well, for me, I'm more focused on the therapeutic side again, because to me, you're actually solving major problems, right? Let's say if it's a cure for cancer or, I don't know, osteoarthritis or whatever other, disease. So to me, that's kind of more of my focus of what I look for. And again, I'm one of the more non-scientific probably in this panel, but I like to keep things a little bit more simpler. So I have a set of guidelines that I look for, which is I got to get to know who the founder is and can I trust you. I look at your scalability and then I look at your moat. And then the rest I always believe will come into play. And, but it's really funny because sometimes I have friendly banter with some of my VC friends, right? They're like, oh, you're not looking at the pitch deck. You're not looking at the TAM and this and that, right? And so how do you, and so we have this little friendly banter. And I always just tell them, I have 8 unicorns. How many do you have, right? most of them don't even have one. So I personally like to keep things simple. I don't need all the details. Those are the three things I look for. And so far, that model worked for me. It might not be for other people, but to me, it works. And so, yeah, so for me, I like to keep it simple. Don't give me too many, words that I do not understand, right? So that's just me. But to me, again, I focus more on the therapeutic side because I think, when you, as an investor, you want those massive returns. So if you're actually solving a cure or a problem, then the potential for returns is a lot better.
Got it. Brenda, can we open it up for two questions? One question?
Sorry, guys, one question. Does anyone have one question? One quick one? Or find them later. Oh, there you go. Does anyone have a microphone? No. Can you pass it over? Pass the microphone.
Thank you so much. So my name's Natasha, and I've been a high-performance nutritionist working with my clients for the past 13 years. So I've developed a system and a blueprint to take them from the top 1% to the top 0.1%. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. My team that I work with cover these modalities. So now I'm taking what I've done one-on-one and developing my own app. So my question is, how do I, with somebody who didn't go to Stanford or Harvard or Yale, or doesn't have a degree in anything bio, right? I'm a nutritionist. But how do I strengthen my team to be able to be in a position to be able to raise capital and get to where I need to go? Because I know what I do works. And so that's why this app is about reaching more people. So how do I do it successfully, and how do I build this out with the right team? Who do you suggest I work with?
Okay, so like what I've said earlier, for me, it's about the trust, right? I don't care if you're. To me, I don't get impressed because you came from Stanford, or you came from USC, whatever it is, right? I care more about who are you as a person, what's your character, and can I trust you? I've invested in companies that became unicorns, and I don't even know what the product is, but I like the person, right? And so to me, I keep things simple. That's why a lot of my other BC friends, they don't understand how I do things. But to me, it's about that human connection, right? Yeah, like I said, I've invested in multiple companies that I don't even know what your product is. I just like you as a person. And then eventually, they became unicorns. So to me,
Lisa smiling, like she's relating.
No, it's important. Of course, you must respect and like the person that you're investing in. But I'm going to add to what Anthony is talking about once he's finished.
yeah. So to me, it's like, yeah. Let's say if I meet you at some point or whatever, and I like you, yeah, I'll figure out a way how to, maybe invest in your company, and then of course I have a wide network, and so how can I help you grow as a company, right? And then how do I protect your business? Because this would take a little bit longer, right? But we don't really have too much time. But when I invest in a company, I don't just invest because, okay, I think it's part of my strategy is how do I protect your startup so that you don't get eaten alive by competitors. And then how do I open other doors, right, for additional funding or, I don't know, other connections that I have so that it can help your company to scale, right? So yeah, so that's kind of part of what I also do. That's why it involves trying to get to know who the founder is and liking who they are.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna add to that real quickly. So we have launched a global longevity venture studio. The purpose of it is to support researchers, but also companies focused in these areas. We provide as much as we can as much of the ecosystem that you were referring to, which includes venture building, helping with the team, the regulatory, the scaling, the funding. You start off with 100K of capital, and then we move from there. So happy to speak to you after, or put you in touch with our folks and see if we can be helpful to you. We're particularly focused, again, around more on the prevention side, more on the diagnostic side. You know, the number's around 14.3x return on investment in that area. For autoimmune, it's around 20x. And for respiratory, it's about 36x. So from an investment standpoint, beyond you as a person, we think that on the prevention side, precision medicine, this is a phenomenal opportunity that we are happy to support people on.
Yeah, maybe just one thing is like, I guess best to start with as a founder and see like whether you have genuinely come to the problem which you are trying to solve. It's like, were you personally affected by a thing? I think those are one of the best ways you can easily see that how passionate the founders are. But definitely, along with passion, you need an execution, and you need equally motivated team. That's where it's like your first hires and partners, they come in picture. You might not be very experienced in picking up the right people and everything, and that's where people like these people should be you should be going on it. First thing is like, who do you want to partner? You want to partner with? It's like, are they credible enough to bring the correct people and correct team and build around things? Because other things will fall in place, and eventually all those operations and everything. It's like the motivation and finding the correct team and people. I think that's good to start, and then things will line up.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks, our panelists. Sorry about
Thank you, guys.